Order this meeting of the Senate Education Budget Subcommittee number 1. Today we will be taking up a number of items on K-12 education and higher education. Part A of your agenda deals with the K-12 issues. A couple comments. Most Prop 98 issues, and it's been determined that now most Prop 98 issues, including adult education, LCFF, transportation, will be fully discussed at the full budget hearing on Friday. So if there are things that aren't in the agenda that you thought would be, that's because the determinations are made now. They'll be taken up at the full budget hearing on Friday. On our agenda today, we have several items that are proposed for vote only, items that have either been heard already or that just are technical adjustments. And then we have several items that are proposed for discussion and then a vote. We will take public comment on any items in the discussion section. The vote only section, we will not be taking public comment because those items have already been aired at previous meetings, for the most part back in March and April. With that, we'll move to the vote only agenda. This is agenda part A, items number 1 through 47. 1 through 47. And I will ask my colleagues if they have any items in 1 through 47, the vote only calendar, that they wish to separate to ask questions or have further discussion. Senator Warlock?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to discuss item number 44.
Okay, so we'll separate item number 44. Anything else to separate from the discussion, I'm sorry, from the vote only calendar?
Right. Okay.
Senator Allen.
I have, it's item 14 from the version that I got this morning. I don't know where that is now.
Okay, the consultant will discuss it with you.
Okay, thank you.
Should still be 14.
From this, oh, this CTE incentive. Okay, so this is stuff we did. I'm sorry, it was from a different, it's from the discussion portion.
Okay. So anything from the vote only items you wish to separate?
I don't believe so.
Okay. In that case, we will separate item 44 and have discussion on item 44 after we take a vote on all of the other items, items 1 through 47, excepting item 44. So the motion, the individual.
Is there public comment on that? Or is it?
No, we've had public comment already. The individual, yeah, and again, and regarding public comment, these items have been heard for the most part either in March or April, and there was public comment opportunity then, or they are just minor technical changes. The staff recommendations appear on each page next to each item. The committee's had a chance to review these, so the motion will be to adopt the staff recommendations for basically items 1 to 43 and items 45 to 47. Will the staff secretary please call the roll?
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Okay, so show items 1 through 43 and 45 through 47 being adopted 3-0. Now we'll move to item 44. Senator Morlock.
Mr. Chair, this is a placeholder, and it will be refined as necessary, which is the recommendation. And since I haven't had a chance to do any analysis, I'm uncomfortable voting yes.
Okay. Do you wish more information right now, or do you just want to abstain from the vote?
Well, I've received all the information just
Okay.
now.
Okay.
So,
Okay, makes sense.
Could someone just introduce the item briefly?
Sure. Department of Ed or LAO? Yeah, let's have LAO come forward, please, and talk about the TK enrollment issue, number 44.
Good afternoon, Carolyn Chu from the Legislative Analyst's Office. So right now, the transitional kindergarten program serves children who are no longer eligible for kindergarten. That is, they are turning 5 between September and December. It used to be the case that children who turned 5 by the 1st of September could enroll in kindergarten that year, but the state moved back, the other way around. Children who turned 5 by December 1st could enroll in kindergarten, but the state moved back the eligibility date to September 1st. Simultaneously, the state created the transitional kindergarten program that would serve these children who became no longer eligible for kindergarten. So right now, the window for eligibility for TK are children turning 5 between or after September 1st and before December 1st. So it's sort of a 3-month eligibility window. This language, as proposed here, would allow districts to enroll students that are outside of that eligibility window.
Thank you. Quentin?
So that means you were expanding the definition of TK?
As the way that it's written in your agenda, I believe, yes, it would allow districts some discretion to enroll some students that perhaps are turning 5 in August, or they could expand the eligibility window.
And then who pays for that?
Transitional kindergarten students are considered under ADA funding to be kindergarten students. They generate the kindergarten local control funding formula rate, and they're eligible for the supplemental and concentration grants as well. So the state would bear the cost of additional enrollments into the TK program.
So if school districts wanted to open up TK to all 4-year-olds, they could do that at the expense of the state?
Potentially, depending on the details of how the language were written, it does open up significantly more enrollment into the transitional kindergarten program.
Great.
Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That helps me a little bit. I had to learn the hard way that Humpty Dumpty was pushed, and so I'm a little concerned about allowing younger kids to start. I think there's a lot of studies that would show that it's something you want to be real cautious about. I skipped a grade, and I know I had to deal with a lot of issues being smaller, believe it or not, than my classmates for a while. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be a no vote on this item.
Great. Does Finance want to comment?
Ian Johnson, Department of Finance. I was only going to comment to the extent that the understanding was that this action was that the state bear the cost for any additional students in transitional kindergarten. The motion here states that any additional expansion of transitional kindergarten those costs would be borne by the school district. So if that's the understanding, then I don't have any comment.
Okay.
But this then puts, yeah. So this puts school districts in a difficult, I just remember we had an example of a parent who was coming in insisting that their kid be accepted into kindergarten, even though they didn't meet the age requirements. And our staff had deemed that it wasn't appropriate. I guess I'm trying to understand what the logic here is. This is just to give additional flexibility to school districts if they want to be able to use their own money to pay for kids under 5.
So current law requires that a school district offer transitional kindergarten to a student who's going to turn 5 between September and December. Our understanding of the statute, and we'd have to take another look, and obviously we haven't seen any specific language here, but our understanding is that a school district can already offer transitional kindergarten to students who are turning 5 outside of that window. And so we share your sort of sentiment of not really understanding what the intent of this language is.
Does that help?
Does that help?
Does the LEO want to comment further?
It might be helpful to have the Department of Education explain what guidance they give to districts regarding enrollment of children who are not within the official transitional kindergarten enrollment window.
Good morning, Monique Ramos on behalf of the Department of Education. So we actually have been providing guidance that students who do not meet that age requirements, they do not turn 5 within those 3 months, are not eligible to enroll into TK. That is the information we are currently providing. So this seeks essentially flexibility for local LEAs to go ahead and do that.
Okay. That right now, they may not be able, if they want to have a reading program or something, this allows them to create that sort of program? Is that the idea? If they want to?
Debbie McManus, Department of Education. I'm not sure about a specific reading program, but I believe what this is trying to is to allow more children to attend transitional kindergarten, which currently is not what the statute says. So it would allow flexibility for districts to serve children who are younger in their transitional kindergarten program.
I'll just add one thing. One of the issues that some districts face is that they may not have enough transitional kindergartners to fill out a whole classroom. So as a result, they end up combining TK eligible children with kindergarten eligible children. And so this language would potentially allow a district to enroll sufficient TK or TK and a little bit younger children to round out a whole classroom so that they could have a transitional kindergarten focused curriculum rather than a combo transitional kindergarten curriculum in the classroom.
Okay.
Any further questions? Thank you for the good discussion. At this point, I'll ask staff to read the motion, and we'll move to vote. No, not on the information only. I mean, okay, sure. Come give us information. We're flexible.
Bring us lunch, too.
So Chairman, members, Tim Fitzgerald, LA Universal Preschool. A couple of things. First of all, you had a whole session last year on the subject of broadening this out. And one of the key issues was mixed delivery. And you raised the question about very young children in a public school setting. So this does expand it very clearly. And I think it's true that some of the districts can't get full classes, and they are moving that direction anyway, because current law allows, case by case, a parent goes to the school district and feels their child could benefit from moving into that situation, they can grant that now. That's current law. So they can do it by case. It just opens up the whole thing. And I would ask you to take a look at that carefully and its impact on state preschool and all the general child care programs we have. And some would argue that it's cheaper to do it in the state preschool program than in the LCFF program.
Okay, thank you. And having opened up public comment now, I will ask anybody else who wishes to make public comment on this issue only, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Leilani Aguinaldo-Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District. This is very specific language that Los Angeles Unified very much supports. And as evidenced by the feedback from Department of Finance as well as the California Department of Education, there are differing legal opinions under current law about whether districts have the current discretion to accept students into transitional kindergarten that are outside of the September to December 1 window. And so LAUSD supports this language because it clarifies statute to establish that a district like LAUSD could take it upon themselves to enroll students who are going to turn 5 during the year that they would be in TK at our discretion. If they, for example, if they turn 5 January 15, then LAUSD would be able to offer transitional kindergarten to these students at the beginning of the school year. We would, at our own expense. The district would not be asking the state for any funding to serve these students. But under current law, once the student turns 5, then they would be eligible for ADA, and that is under current law is our understanding. So we believe that this is clarifying language just to establish that at the district's discretion, we would be able to expand our TK programs in order to provide a more robust program for these 4-year-olds that are turning 5 during the school year.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, now I would ask, please read the motion and call the roll. Item number 44.
Motion is on item number 44 on the vote-only list to move staff recommendation to approve placeholder trailer bill to be refined as necessary. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
No.
Okay, please show item number 4 passing 2-1. And we now move to the discussion and vote items. Now, for each of these items, I'd like to call up the, and the first item will be Department of Ed, the whole group. Yeah, let's have a panel, LAO come forward, and finance and Department of Ed, probably. Now, let's have the whole panel. You guys will just stay up here. You can switch players, but these offices will be represented throughout. So if we get to an issue that's not yours in your particular office, feel free to switch out with the person who is the appropriate person in your office. Unlike our previous subcommittee hearings, we're dealing with so many issues today that we'll just let you change out. Item number 1, Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant Determination and Funding Priorities. Would the finance want to speak to this?
Good morning, Jessica Holmes, good afternoon, Jessica Holmes, Department of Finance. In this item, we are, I'm sorry, give me just a moment. Okay. As you may or may not know, in November of 2014, the Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant was reauthorized. And it made many changes to the federal funds that we currently receive for our child care and early learning programs. We have not yet received guidance from the federal government as to how much money we will be receiving in our grant for the 15-16 state fiscal year. This language proposes to identify what the state's priorities are for funding if additional funding comes in, and what the state's intents are to maintain slots and rates if the funding is reduced. At this time, Finance has budgeted for relatively flat federal funding in anticipation of not really knowing exactly what we're going to be getting in 15-16.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from the LAO and then Department of Finance on this. I'm sorry, and then Department of Education.
We recommend rejecting this language due to the fact that it unnecessarily limits the legislature's decision-making authority should new revenues come in from the federal government or should our federal grant go down. And this would predetermine what action should be taken when the legislature may want to make that decision when the actual totals come in.
Thank you. Department of Education?
Good afternoon, Monique Ramos from the Department of Education. So as Department of Finance has said, we don't have the information at this time, unfortunately. So if you do choose to reject the governor's proposal, as always, we have committed to continue to work with the legislature and the LAO and Department of Finance about implementing these laws as we receive more guidance from the feds.
Finance?
And I would add one more thing. The purpose of this language, our intent was not to subvert anyone's prerogatives, but to provide additional information to folks in the field, prior information to give them some sense of where things will likely go, what will likely happen to the extent that federal funding amounts change, as opposed to them finding out last minute.
Agreed. And that's why I think the staff recommendation is reject without prejudice, because not that it's a bad idea, just we don't have all the information we need right now. So that is staff's recommendation. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none?
I guess just a comment. I guess.
Okay.
I just agree with the governor's position, so I'll stay there.
Okay. Any members of the public wish to address the committee on this particular item? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Please call the roll.
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen? Senator Morlock?
No.
Okay, please show item 1 in discussion vote items passing 2-1. Moving now to item 2.
As part of the Child Care and Development Block Grant reauthorization, the federal government is requiring of our current, we currently have a quality allocation out of those federal funds that we're required to provide. And the federal government is going to require, as of federal fiscal year 2017, that we begin to set aside 3% of our total CCDF dollars to infant and toddler quality projects. We are proposing in the May revision that we use that 3% to create an infant and toddler quality rating and improvement system block grant, very similar to the state preschool QRIS block grant that was passed as part of the 2014 Budget Act. And we're providing this language early in order to give, again, folks in the field time to prepare for it.
Thank you. LAO?
We recommend rejecting this language as it speaks to a decision that needs to be made in the budget year +1 in 2016-17, when we would recommend that the legislature have a broader discussion of what quality activities will be demanded under the new CCD, the new Child Care and Development block grant reauthorization because the reauthorization requires a holistic look at what we're doing in terms of quality activities, and we think it's unnecessary to predetermine one specific slot of that funding when a larger discussion needs to be had in another year's time.
Thank you. Department of Ed?
Again, this is something that we're working toward implementing. We do have an extension until March of 2016, so we will be working with the legislature, Department of Finance, and LAO in order to flush out what this plan, the state plan, will be.
Okay, and again, the staff recommendation is reject without prejudice. Are any members of the public wishing to make a comment on item number 2 here? Seeing none, any questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, again, the recommendation reject without prejudice, basically meaning that it's not that it's a bad idea, it's just we feel maybe premature. So please call the roll.
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Please show this passing 3-0. Moving on now to item number 3, which deals with CalWORKs, adjust the CalWORKs childcare caseload funding, Department of Finance.
Stage 2 and Stage 3 of CalWORKs childcare is funded as an entitlement. Stage 3 is not legally an entitlement, but we do fund it that way. And so every governor's budget and May revision, we do update the estimates for caseload and cost of providing care in these programs. We work with the data provided by the Department of Education, Social Services, and we also work with the LAO to create these.
Thank you. Helio?
We believe that the governor's May revision for caseload in the stage 2 of the CalWORKs Child Care Program may be overstated due to a high estimate in stage 1. So families stay in stage 1 for roughly 6 months and then transition into stage 2. We believe the stage 1 estimate is too high and it has ripple effects on the stage 2 estimate. We believe the stage 2 estimate could come down about 1,200 slots and that this would result in savings of around $10 million.
Thank you. Department of Ed?
The Department of Ed is actually comfortable with either the LAO or governor's proposal, so both we feel would adequately cover our estimates.
Okay, the staff recommendation is that we hold this item open and it'll move to full budget committee. Any member of the public wish to speak on this? Seeing none, questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, so the motion again is to hold this open. It'll go to full budget. Please call the roll.
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Show that passing 3-0. We move now to item number 4, adjusting the cost of full-year regional market rate update implementation.
It's a mouthful. As you may recall, in 2014, as part of the Budget Act, we updated the regional market rate for our voucher programs from the greater of the 85th percentile of the 2005 regional market rate survey or the 85th percentile of the 2009 regional market rate survey, reduced by 10.11%. This adjustment is part of a technical adjustment that would make those changes applicable for a full year. The regional market rate change happened in January 1 of 2015. We provided an additional appropriation of funding in the governor's budget. This makes adjustments based on changing caseloads and the programs that are affected by this rate.
Thank you. LAO?
This technical adjustment reflects the agreement made in last year's Budget Act.
Okay, education.
We have no concerns with this proposal.
Okay, the recommendation here, and it seems pretty unanimously agreed to, is to approve as proposed. Any member of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, any questions from committee members? Seeing none, again, the motion approve as proposed. Please call the roll.
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
That is adopted 3-0. Moving on now to item number 5, adjust 4,000 full-day state preschool wraparound slots for change in cost of living adjustment.
I'll address my comments for both item 5 and item 6 as they are related to each other. One is non-98 and one is Proposition 98. The adjustments that we're providing for items 5 and 6 are a reflection of a change in the cost of providing 4,000 full-day state preschool slots in the 15-16 fiscal year. These slots are beginning on June 15th, 2015. However, we're providing the cost for the full year in 2015-16. The reason why the cost of these slots changed slightly is because COLA has changed, and COLA does affect we were proposing that COLA adjust the state preschool daily rate. And so that would make changes as well as the SRR. So these are just technical adjustments for those slots.
Thank you. LAO?
We have no concerns with this technical adjustment.
Education?
We have no concerns with the adjustment.
Hearing no concerns. Any public comment? Seeing none. Any questions from members of the committee? Any objection to taking 5 and 6 as a package since they were both just addressed? Seeing none. The recommendation on both is approve as proposed. Please call the roll.
Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen? Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Okay, please show items 5 and 6 being adopted 3-0. Switch out some staff here. If I was so well choreographed like we were doing. Okay, on items 7 to 12, they're all special education items. They're all approvals. The staff recommendation is approval on each. So we'd like to take them as a package, but as you're discussing them, feel free to, separate out if you have problems with any ones of them or what your concerns might be. So on items 7 to 12, Finance, why don't you begin?
Good afternoon, Lisa Merzinski with the Department of Finance. So in addition to 7 through 12, there's also item 19 on page 26, which is the $10 million for statewide data-driven systems of support. So I don't know if you want, I'll address that one as well at this point, or do you want to just take that up separate?
Let me take a look at that one too. And which item was that?
19 on page 26.
Yeah, we can add that to
Yeah,
the package.
it's not a special education. It's actually been proposed as a general Prop 98 expenditure because it will impact all school children.
Well,
but
let's take
it's
special
part of the-
education package first. Let's
Okay,
just do
okay.
7 to 12.
So this special education package before you is in response to the task force on special education that released a report earlier this year, and these are based on some of the recommendations in the report. Our proposals are focused on early intervention and identification of young children. So the $30 million is to increase funding or to increase the opportunities for infants and toddlers. That'd be birth to age 3 in order to receive services at a younger level. The current funding model, the amount that goes out, has been frozen historically for many years and has not allowed for any new participation. This would open up that funding model to just allow for increased identification and earlier intervention in the $30 million.
Okay.
So the 12, and then if you're looking at the LAO's handout, I can just address that. The $12 million is to fund an additional 2,500 part-day preschool slots, and those would be with priority given to students with disability, and again, focusing on that early identification and intervention piece. As a companion to that, the $6 million is for preschool, to increase reimbursement rates to 1% for preschool in order to help with professional development training, and also in identifying special needs with children in that age group. The next piece, if you go down, is and this piece, I don't believe it is in the package, but there is an additional piece that's a fund swap, a $2 million fund swap, and that kind of addresses the issues below. We're proposing to shift some federal funds to state-level activities, and then in order to hold local assistant grants whole and at current levels, we're proposing a $2 million backfill in order so that the local assistance grant don't drop with this shift. So the first shift that we're asking is for almost $1.9 million to cover an increase in the cost of cases that are being heard through the Office of Administrative Hearings. So right now, any special education case that needs resolution, a mediation, or due process, the department contracts with the OAH to do those services, and there's been an increase. So this would cover the increased costs of those contracts. The second piece is the alternative dispute resolution, an additional $1.7 million. This current program is a $300,000 pilot that goes out to 20 SELPAs, By increasing it by the 1.7 million, this would allow for all SELPAs to receive this grant. We believe it will help reduce the cost of the mediations that we just approved, the 1.9 million. It should help in that area. And then the very last piece is the $500,000, which would go to the Department of Education to help districts move towards the new state systemic improvement plan. So the federal government in special education has shifted from a compliance-based model to more of an outcome-based, and they've added this new indicator. The department has come up with a program, it's kind of a tiered support to provide intervention and assistance to districts that need help in meeting these new requirements.